Hello again and welcome to another Articulate Outburst podcast. Thanks for all your comments on the last one about useful idiots who serve as our inspiration for songs, and quite a few of you wanted me to expand on the kind of power structure thing of how I think that the world works, for want of a better expression, my worldview I suppose you'd call it. And you know, obviously punk is definitely, or has always been, left wing, and I think that was dead easy before people like WEF, WHO, United Nations, and just about every single other global organisation you can mention started calling the shots. So I think to a certain extent, yeah, and it comes from that kind of attacking of power, of course it does, but the power has shifted away from our kind of borders and our interests and into a kind of, dare I say it, a global sphere, obviously powered by social media, powered by Google, big search engines, where only one version of the truth is dead easy to peddle you. I know now when you look for something that's a little bit complicated on the internet, something that doesn't find the narrative, you know it's there, but you'll probably die trying to find it, because if it doesn't quite fit what everybody accepts as an accepted narrative, then the boredom threshold that you're required to go find it is beyond you. And I think out thinking that we've now got only a few channels that tell us what's going on, and those channels that used to tell you what were going on when you look for it have stopped telling you those answers. And without kind of belittling Google, you just used to type in your question and your answer were there. Now it thinks about it, and now it pushes answers it thinks it wants you to see, as opposed to what you wanted to see. And it's asking you to sign into your account every 5 minutes just to do basic searches, and all of a sudden the internet freedom couldn't last. It's another quote of ours from an up and coming song, 1984. The governments were slow and now they're fast. The internet freedom couldn't last. So in addition to a kind of YouTube, Google, obviously all the same kind of power structure in many ways. Twitter's slightly different now that Musk's got his hand on it, but Facebook and all these controlled the narrative during COVID and have never took the foot off the gas. If you add to this the UN, the WHO, who, you know, unless if you're saying something that's contrary to the WHO, you're off. And they've not exactly shrouded themselves in glory, but it doesn't matter. It's coming down the tubes. The European Union have given them the framework that they used during COVID for the WHO to now use for their own views. And all of a sudden you start to think, Parliament's not involved, this is not about local politics, we're being corralled here. We are being corralled. So a lot of people, obviously, and I attack that, and I just don't see how that's right wing. So many of the tools that are being used is, obviously, we know that health passports, vaccine certification to cross borders is coming in. If you then want to add to that you're going to have a vaccine passport, you're going to have a biometric passport. If people can't see that that's going to be used as a tool to beat you over the head with the eco stuff, then I can't help you. So this eco stuff being far right, it's not really, when you just know that's one of the levers that you're going to be used in the social credit score of the future. And it's being waved in. And it's being waved in by those zealots that believe there's a climate emergency. You can see they're being funded by those people. You know, people like Just Stop Oil, that are farting the fucking wind for me. But look at the newspaper headlines, look at the profiles. This is being advanced by powers bigger than just a few coloured-haired idiots sat in the road. So I don't see that as attacking the eco, because it's going to be the stick that we get beaten with as being particularly right-wing or left-wing. I think it's neutral. But what it is an identification of where power lies and how it's going to be applied to us. I know that people during the COVID saw world in a different way, such as Teams, for example. This Teams, great system, saves you a load of travelling, saves you a load of time. I don't personally think that the over the digital on a permanent basis works. I think you need face-to-face kind of stuff. Whether that can be replaced from the personal touch, only time will tell. But you know, if you've just got something that's not kind of, if it's a preamble meeting, then why not have it on Teams? So that makes a lot of sense financially. Then all of a sudden it's going to be, so when are you forced to do that? Because, hang on a minute, you've been a naughty boy, we've seen what you bought at the supermarket, you bought 4 cans of beer, and you bought some red meat. Technically that gives you less credits in terms of car points and your summer Audi next year. And I almost feel that they're going to be saving up for a summer Audi in anything other than cash. And I think that all these things that are applying to us now, it's almost like our future's being stolen. You know, I know it's Orwellian where the past has stopped because they live in an ever-present. Their future doesn't exist effectively because it could be anything people want it to be, and that's where we are as well. Not that the past has changed, or it's been rewritten so that people from outside the company can have a belief that they built the country in some way, because the nation state would need to be destroyed for people to be less patriotic in order to get to, you know, A, B and C. So there are a load of factors in play here that are neither far right nor far left. This is about power. This is about the power structure, and this is about who's actually running the show. So obviously quite a lot of our music appeals to that, and I think people are getting the wrong end of the stick about it. So I was asked to kind of expand on what I said in the last stream, and I think to a certain extent I have. If I look at our second album, for example, much of this is a much more dystopian, eerie, weirder world. Originally I thought I'd set it 10 years in the future from now, as if it was singing songs about the there and then, which many of them kind of are set in an uncertain future, reflecting on what's going to happen based on what I can see is coming down the tubes now. So just to give you an example of what those songs are, he says quite confidently, is obviously eco-terrorism is obviously not the people nailed to the streets, it's the people that are advancing it with carbon credit scores, you know, carbon neutral. They're all backing away with it because we're 12 months away from an election, as if they're going to be backing away from it. They're just taking the foot off the gas so that we're conned into thinking, they've given it up, it don't work. You just know after the next election cycle it'll be applied again and again and again. Then the foot will come off the gas because they're having an election, and so on and so forth. It's like a wind, well, it is a windbag. Tide constantly going in and out to suit the election cycle. Same with boat migrants at the moment. You always get, I'm surprised we've not seen a minister pointing out in the English Channel with some other crap, because we're getting towards an election now that you want to start doing something about it. So the whole kind of issues with the way in which we approach politics is, although I might be speaking in a sporadic way, I kind of joining up a picture of what I think's coming and why people seem to think that we're far right. We're just based. We can just see through all that shite, and we know where everything else that's part of that is being played at us. But I am surprised that it's referred to as far right. So just a couple of great tracks coming up from the next album is 1984. I know it's been overplayed. I know George Orwell would be looking around thinking, God, I didn't know it was going to be this bad. But the fact that people are willing it on, and there's a subservience within people that wants to follow the rules, I think that was identified by COVID. Another great song of ours is Sandstorm. It's about the media, about all the conflicting views. Quite first song that I think we've written which has got imagery. You can particularly feel it. You know, gravel sands through my hands, dust is dust and the truth is lost. And, you know, throwing up a cloud of meteor dust kind of explains the media, and obviously we're going to have some swirling wind sounds on there. And a kind of, you know, the idea of pioneering and I'm pushing it through, which I think is quite good. Lost Boys and Girls is a dedication to people that have been cancelled. Obviously the Lost Boys comes from Peter Pan, but I thought Lost Boys and Girls would be quite, obviously we've got to be inclusive. It'd be wrong to just put boys, but you know, some girls have been cancelled as well. I think Lizzo's having a hard time at the moment. Nicki Minaj got kicked. And obviously once you're banned, everybody starts screaming like a witch. So Lost Boys and Girls is really a tribute to them. Blue check marks, I could go on about this all day. If you refer to any media story or any kind of celebrity, particularly celebrities. It's almost like the way in which they're now measured. It's by how many followers they've got, and if something comes out that's streaming, how many views it's got. And this has become the kind of new heroics of our day. Our new leaders are the one with the most check marks, if you like. So that's kind of self-explanatory. Cathedral, I'll be breaking academic agents out with that one. I'd kind of written it before he wrote The Octopus, about the power structure, and although Yarvin's model is, I think, probably flawed in a couple of places, it's much better imagery for a song than an octopus, because Octopus is Garden by the Beatles, which will just always haunt a song like that. So I've based it on Yarvin's Cathedral. I'm not going to go through all the stuff I've done, but that gives you an idea of the kind of place that where we're centering the album. And this is all basically about the power structure. And although I've called it Heroes and Bad Actors, I think Heroes is heroes, and I consider ourselves to be in that camp. I consider that the lefty liberals at the BBC are to be in the other. Famous Match of the Day presenter and somebody who does daytime radio on two, to be two prime examples of perhaps everything that's gone wrong, I think, with certainly with the BBC and its preachy look down on the plebs approach, or gammon has become a term. You know, the white working class are becoming the scum of the earth, the real proletariat, as they say, whose futures have been stolen or will be stolen if we allow it by the powers that be. So that's kind of what I'd like to expand on. So although I didn't want to do 2 streams on our critics and expand on why I think they are wrong, and obviously they've got a right to reply, you can ring me, you can call me on the YouTube, on every single medium you want, then please do. You know, obviously the battles that we're going to fight are going to be continued to be fought, because nobody ever takes context into account anymore. A sentence is lifted, conclusion drawn. I believe that to be probably as a result of Twitter. If you're down to a certain amount of characters, I think it's 140 unless you've paid your money, then you look at them and they're like psalms from the bloody Bible. They really are, and you think, oh God, is this another method by which truth is imparted to a populace that's ignorant of certain things around them? And I believe there's an element of truth in that, really. Facebook is obviously for family and friends and the odd political barbed comment. But that's it, really. I don't really think I can go on any more about our detractors. I think that their minds are fixed, or have been fixed. But other than that, again, doors always up for a chat. But that's roughly a little bit more on what I said about the power structure and what the true venom of our punk, our more modern stuff does, compares to perhaps what punk used to be. And although that it's got a great place, I think, you know, unless it evolves over time, then it just gets stuck where it is. So that's why we chose punk as a genre. And honestly, if you're going to do angry music, gotta be that, hasn't it? But yeah, so second album's on the horizon. We're in the recording studio soon. Obviously I like a load of flack, so email me, ring me if you want. I'm always driving about, so I like a phone call on a long journey. If I could remind you to ring the bell, subscribe to the channel, press the bell for notifications, tick all so that you get the update when this stream is put out there. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. And that's pretty much it from, you know, our critics. I don't really think I can keep going on about it and explain why we're different to what they are and why they're just empty vessels at the end of the day. But again, if they listen long enough, if they play a little bit more articulate outburst, you never know, they might catch up at some point. But thanks for listening, thanks for everything, thanks for your comments, and I'll see you in the next one.